So we have coming a good friend. I'm happy to have you here, Caleb.
Happy to be here.
Caleb Rascón is from Mexico. He's going to be talking about the potential impact of real-time auditory theme analysis on hearing aid research. I've heard his talks in different situations, also a lot in Spanish, which is very cool. To have such a high level of researchers in Latin America is awesome, and Caleb is one of them for sure. So we're very happy to have you here, Caleb. We just prepare everything for you here, so get ready for sharing your presentation.
Yeah,
Looking forward for your talk, and I would say the floor is yours as soon as you're
yeah,
ready. So I don't know
yeah,
if you
yeah.
can there and get everything.
Part of my part of my my presentation involves like audio, so I'm gonna have a little bit of a test just to know that if you're able to hear it. So you're supposed to be hearing like a cafeteria type of thing. Okay, cool, perfect. Right. So hello everybody. Let me just start up everything here because this always takes a while. I'm sorry about that. I can share my presentation, right? Yeah, I can. So that will be this one, and you should be able to see everything here now.
All good. All good.
Okay, good. So hi, my name is Caleb, and I'm gonna. It's interesting that that I got to present to you guys right after the panel discussion. Especially, I got to hear a little bit of it on the last part of it. It involves a lot of interdisciplinary stuff, and which is great. And that's actually one of my passions here, because not only is it audio or audio signal processing, which is something that is a little bit outside the scope, I feel, from the Audiology MVCC conference. However, Seba has always told me like, no, wait, this is actually very important for us too as well. So I feel very an appropriate position in terms of the logistics of the conference, because it's exactly this is also very interdisciplinary. Not as much as the as the panel discussed, but I think this is also another way of seeing things, because it's now is not. I don't deal with patients. I deal more just with the audio. I'm more of a chicken in that sense. I don't like prodding into people's heads, but I know it's an important part. But however, I think that the side of the audio signal side of things maybe can also be of interest to this community. So this is what we're going to this is what we talk about. Basically, what we're talking about is real-time auditory scene analysis. Just for everybody to be on the same page, what we mean about the auditory scene, at least in my community, is basically the cocktail party problem, in which we basically want to emulate the human hearing ability of, let's say, this lady here. And in this case specifically, it's worth noting that she's not talking just to one person; she's talking like to three at the same time. So speech recognizers, typical speech recognizers, are gonna be completely out of their depth in this scenario, because they always assume there's one person talking at a time, in which we know very well, especially us in Latin America, they will like to talk over each other a lot, and we like to get the floor, and we like to yell a lot, etc., etc. So this is a very difficult task for speech recognizers, or at least typical speech recognizers right now. And even to further complicate things, not only is the person talking to 3% at the time, there's other people talking that she doesn't really want to talk to, like, for example, the person on the red that's beside her. That doesn't mean, however, that she's also hearing her. She's not just putting attention to her. So she's like an interference instead of a source of interest, which are double persons. And even further complicating things, not only is she listening or hearing to persons, she's listening to other types of sound sources, meaning music. Maybe if you live in the Mexico City metropolitan area, or some very loud places like New York or Chicago, we have a very loud environment here. So, and even then, inside the cocktail party, there's music, there's glasses clinging, etc., etc. So there's a lot of stuff going on there that she will need to be able, at least if we want to emulate her ability, or hearing ability, we need to be able to, cope with all of this. So if we want to see this as a type of like a more symbolic way of seeing things, we basically want, as the auditory scene analysis task, we want to locate where are all of these sound sources, if the front, on the back, on the right, on the side. We also want to separate what from the audio streams of all of those sound sources, such that when we have those separated, we then can use some type of classification side of things to know what type of sound sources that is, specifically if it's a sound source of interest or not. So those are basically the issues that we want to tackle, like localization, separation, and classification. Now, there is not only is this something that we want to carry out, like I said, there's a lot of challenges, that are presented here. For example, there are mobile sound sources as well, that because the person is able to walk, the sound capture system, you want to call it that. In this case, it's a person, but as well, we want to have these abilities to emulate something into a computer or a robot. Those capture systems are also mobile. So everything is mobile, everything is dynamic. And not only that, but the noises itself in the terms are very complex. And very importantly, everything needs to run in real time. So those combinations of challenges makes it very, very difficult task, and that we definitely will want to resolve. Now, why? Usually in this part of my presentation, I talk about all the application scenarios that this can be used on human robot interactions, smart homes, bioacoustics. But obviously, I think the reason why we're here is specifically for the hearing aid research that obviously most of you, if not all, are focused on. So this is really something that I really want to focus because of you guys. And even more so because one of the reasons why when Seba approached me a long time ago so that, I join this community or be part of this community, which is, again, very, thank you for the invitation. Not only was it because, Seba is really good at convincing people to do things, it's also because there's even more challenges in hearing aid research for our task, which is it's a small amount of space. And a small amount of space for microphones is a small amount of space for computational power. So not only do we have a lot of stuff that we need to carry out and need to carry very quickly, now we have very limited amount of resources to do it with. So if you know me, I always love a good challenge, and this is prime for the types of things that I'm very interested in approaching and in solving. Now, there's some state-of-the-art in terms of auditory scene analysis or computational auditory scene analysis. There are many groups that carry it out. However, the ones that I do want to point out are two groups here. One from the Kyoto University and Honda, a collaboration between these two entities called HARC, as well as the University of Sherbrooke implementations and software development, which is many years, or ODAs. Those I will call them state of the art in terms of what they want to do in the complete terms, meaning they do localization, they do separation, they do some sort of classification, and they are very limited in terms of what they can do right now. They can locate and track between 2 and 4 persons, and they can separate the other streams from 2 to 4 persons, and they assume that they're not mobile. ODAS has been able to carry out non-mobile sound sources, but still it is quite limited in terms of what they're doing. So, and you can say, wait, only those? I mean, we live in the space of speech enhancement. Right now, for example, a lot of you are hearing me through Zoom, and Zoom has some speech enhancement abilities here that they carry out. And yes, there are a lot of other groups that do some of these tasks. However, most focus on only one of them, either localization, either separation, or do classification. So not all of them at the same time, which is what we want in terms of this complete auditory scene analysis scheme. However, even then, one of these groups that focus on only one task, few of them run in real time. A lot of these systems that are based like in deep learning and big models that are able to localize, separate, or classify are big enough that are not able to carry out their processing in real time. They use either recordings or have a big amount of latency or response times that are not really, of interest of us, because if you're hearing me and you're hearing, if you're seeing my lips move, and then but you're hearing a second away of what I'm saying, it's kind of daunting when you have that issue. And the ones that do run in real time require a considerable amount of computational power. So they're not such an appropriate or alternatives to solve what we want to solve right now. So where does that leave us? Well, this is the reasoning why, or this is the reason why when Sava told me that, dude, you need to talk in this conference, is the reason why well, one of those, again, because Sava is really good at convincing people to do things, but also because this is something that I've been working on, and I think it's a very interesting approach, and as well as very appropriate for the hearing aid research community, which is a multi-agent approach. Now, multi-agent systems, I'm not going to go into complete details here because I have a little amount of time. But basically, the idea is when you're talking about this problem, basically we're seeing it as a modular set, which is one thing carries a localization, another separation, another classification. And you have one agent, because basically each of these modules can be considered like an agent that just takes care of one task and just puts it down to the next one. Now, this is not, I mean, we can probably say that this is a multi-agent system, which it is in a way. But the interesting thing of seeing it in a multi-agent system approach is the fact that we can then tackle one of the major issues that I see when we see the auditory scene analysis issue here, is that we see this the data flow between modules is a very linear one. And that has an issue because if there's an error in localization, say, we'll have a suffer results in the next part. And that's like bad, because it means that we need to have a very good localization, very like pristine, error-free, nothing but like a unicorn type of localization, which is what we know is basically impossible. We cannot use the thing. And even then, even we want to have, let's say we have like a really perfect localization, the more performance, the more computational resources we will need to have. So again, even if that will be the case, somebody told me like, oh, you're asking for a unicorn, and that unicorn is going to be really, really heavy. So not a possible solution in our case. So what we want then is to have basically, what happens if we have now this idea of multi-agent approach, but having something that is really one of the benefits of multi-agent approach, which was a feedback loops, in which you don't need to have a linear data flow, but more in terms like, this idea then can be feedbacked and be used throughout the agents, and maybe not localization be the first agent. It can be one of the many that can be sharing information between each other. And one of the reasons is of why is this appropriate, why I think this is appropriate for auditory analysis, is that then you don't need to have a perfect localization. You don't need to have a perfect classification or separation, because then because its local errors are fixed in a way by the system, by those interactions between modules. So then the process begins to be very lightweight. And it's the interaction between the multiple agents that are providing that robustness to the whole system, not be relying on the modules being perfect and being high performance. So that means that because we can then live with a localization that is not perfect, means that it can be lightweight, meaning it can be more simple. And because of that, it requires less computational resources, without suffering from its local errors, because it's that interaction in which they will be fixed by the system as a whole. So what I'm going to show you here in the little time that I have is what we have right now implemented. Is not complete, unfortunately. We still have some feedback loops that we want to embark on, but there's one feedback loop that we have already implemented and that I want to show you here. And the feedback loop is the one between separation and localization. So the idea here is that instead of having this linear data flow of localization, then separation, then classification, is to have something like this. It's a feedback loop in which you then have a speech quality assessment to say, is the separation, is that speech quality provided by the speech separation good enough to say, is it the best that we can have right now? And if it's not, it means that it's probably the reason is because the localization is providing a bad error, or is providing a bad localization, a bad location estimation. So we then feed back that speech quality that we have right now to an optimizer that grabs the current localization and tries to correct it such that it optimizes it so to maximize the speech quality. To say like, okay, the localization says that the source is at, let's say, at 5 degrees to the left. Well, to the right, in my case, to the right. And if that's the case, like, okay, but we're not getting a good quality here. So what happens if I make it to more to the 2 or 3 or 4 or maybe 0 degrees? Oh, we're having a very good quality in that direction. Perfect. So that means the localization has an error, but it doesn't matter. We just need to correct that and point it to that direction. It doesn't matter if the localization has that error. We can correct it through this feedback loop. As a demo of this method, we have. I'm going to show you a video of that process actually working. And what you're going to be hearing is a woman that is located at 0 degrees. That's our source of interest. We want to separate that person from the rest of the mix. And there's going to be a man, but it's not on the direction. It's going to be at 90 degrees, and we want to, avoid that person. We want to ignore that person. They're going to be speaking at once, and this is the let's say what the microphone is listening to.
Presenta la evidencia histórica de lo que es un gobierno democrático. Asuntos relativos a la Comisión Especial para el Estudio de la Reforma Constitucional del Senado. Los beneficios de la miel de abeja. Habla de la imposibilidad de aumentar en gran medida la oferta de agua.
So what's going to happen here is that we also are going to insert an artificial location error. We want to listen to the person that is at 0 degrees, but let's say that the location error has a 15-degree error. It's like this to a 15-degree obviously is not going to be the best. And the next part, this video is going to show you how is that system is actually correcting for it. To be clear, what you're going about to hear is running in real time. The picture on your left is basically what's the location error that is being corrected at that moment, right? And the ones on the right is the history of that location correction through time. So, and what you're also going to be hearing the output of the system with that location carried out.
De las empresas a la normativa medioambiental. Puede enviar un mensaje a la siguiente dirección. En ayuda se puede solicitar la inclusión de un sitio web. El secretario general técnico del departamento.
Now you can probably hear we're already doing a good job in eliminating the other person. It's gonna take a while to carry this out. However, it's already doing that, but it's not as clear as it could be.
Puede enviar un mensaje a la siguiente dirección. En ayuda se puede solicitar la inclusión de un sitio web. El secretario general técnico del departamento.
Now there is a 0 degrees. You can hear it very well. However, it's not doing as good job. It needs to. It overshot.
Para poder observar esta animación es necesario estudios sobre la adaptación de las empresas a la normativa medioambiental. Puede enviar un mensaje a la siguiente
And this is one of the things that the optimizer can do. Remembers and basically says like, oh, I overshot. Let's return to where we really need to like really nice. So you can see how it corrected itself.
Tendrán un tratamiento. Situación de Pemex con el senador Oscar Cantón Cetina, PRI. Para poder observar esta animación es necesario estudios sobre la adaptación de las empresas a la normativa medioambiental.
Right. So my time is up, so I need to cut that short. But as you can see, that system is able to say like, okay, I overshot. Wait, but I know that the speech quality was really good, like back there. So let's shut back to where that location was. To a better location. So it's able to now to correct itself. There is no other way. We didn't tell the system where the source of interest was. We just inserted an error and say, you do your thing, and you can see it was correcting itself to the location of the person which was, and all of this was run in real time with very modern computer. We have a 6 core CPU, which is kind of big, but only at 3.6 gigahertz. This is a very, very modern computing power, as you know, relatively speaking, right now, with a small amount of memory, less than 1 gig for everything that you just run at the moment, and a more GPU. Yes, we still need a GPU, but this was a very small one, 1050 Ti, which is like 4 gigs of RAM, which is a very small amount of GPU. So the computer that we were running this in is a very modern one. Now I know that this is still a big computer. We don't want that person to be carrying their CPU on the side, which is something that we need to address. But definitely something that I think it points to an interesting direction to carry this out. So human hearing is of great interest, as a conclusion. Human hearing is of great interest to millennial and human entities, and hearing aid research is being a prime application area for this. There are many challenges, as you can see, and one of them is the limited amount of computational power. This multi-agent approach, I believe, has like some sort of like of interesting points to address here, and maybe even tackle that. It does address this ability to, or this issue of computational power, because error-prone agents tend to be required less computational powers, and this approach self-corrects them, right? So resulting in a potentially available solution. There's some future work, as you can see. We also need to other than even reduce even more the computational resources or the requirements, we need to speed up the process. It takes a long while to do that, but right now we're just being cautious and making it actually work. But we need to speed that process and implement other type of feedback loops. We right now have from the separation to localization, but we're right now working on the classification to localization, meaning saying, oh, I want to put attention to this type of sound sources. Okay, let's use the classification to feedback those information to the other two agents. Right. So that's my time. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was such an insightful amount of information that you're working on. And again, thank you very much for sharing that with us. I don't see any questions. Also, the time is almost there with 11:05 here in Miami, and that's exactly where we are up for to keep our next section of the conference. What I would say, and if you follow a little bit the chat, if you are able to figure out the source separation and everything in our countries in Latin America, then the rest of the world will be a piece of cake for sure. So that you're in a good place to solve the problem. But
yeah. Jan mentioned that in Latin America you need to yell your recognition system of speech. But yes, basically, yeah, the speech recognition will show back. No, actually, one of the issues that we have with speech recognition is not actually our levels. I mean, we can do some stuff to auto level. Sometimes it's our accent. So some speech recognitions don't get the Latin accent as well. But yeah. Wow. And in any case, if there is no questions, it's fine. I mean, thank you a lot for the invitation. You could see my email there, caleb@unam.mx. So if you have any questions here, what's that? So
I will leave you to answer the question in the Q&A if you're able.
Okay.
You can type it, and we will
okay.
Because of time, move on for the break, which it's a long day we have in front of us still. So we have a lot of sessions and a lot of things to go. Caleb, again, thank you very much for your time. Great information there and good things to keep discussing.